The sky darkens as I cross these country roads. The city lights disappearing in the rearview mirror. The moon begins to pierce the clouds, intermittently illuminating the road. I've left work late, and this is my usual route. But tonight, something is different. I'm used to listening to the radio to accompany the silence on the way home, but here I am, deprived of it for some unknown reason. The radio seems to be having trouble picking up the signal, playing only bits of inaudible melody. Suddenly, as I try to find a more stable radio, a thud startles me. Is it my engine? I look at my dashboard. Everything seems normal, but the car is starting to slow down. I press the gas pedal, but nothing happens. A few meters further on, my car comes to a complete stop. Here I am, alone in the middle of a poorly lit road, and to top it all off, right in front of the gloomy entrance to an old cemetery. Great. Just what I needed, I mutter. I try to restart the car. No luck. I'm tempted to check the engine, but what's the point? I know nothing about mechanics. I sigh and dial the phone number of the tow truck. During the call, I observe this cemetery. It looks so old, so abandoned. Overturned headstones, overgrown vegetation, but the gate is surprisingly well preserved. I inform the tow truck of my position, then slump into the seat, trying to regain my composure. Yet there's nothing restful about this silence. I roll down the window, looking for some fresh air. First I hear the almost reassuring sound of hooting, then the melancholy song of the wind. But what I think I hear next makes my blood run cold. A whisper, too distinct to ignore. I try to focus to understand, but after that brief whisper, nothing. I don't know if my mind is playing tricks on me, but I'm convinced the noise is coming from the cemetery. I start looking for a flashlight in my glove compartment when I hear the whisper again. More distinct this time. Sounds like a human voice. It can't be, I say to myself. It must be fatigue. I try to distract myself by staring at the road ahead, hoping to see the tow truck lights coming. But instead, a sudden flash catches my attention. Headlights. 2 bright circles light up at the bottom of the graveyard. I blink, baffled. Why would there be a car there? And how did it get in? The headlights shine intensely for a few seconds, illuminating the old gravestones and giving an unreal hue to this already sinister place. Then, without warning, they fade, plunging the cemetery back into total darkness. My heart is pounding. I try to reason, looking for a logical explanation. Maybe there's another road or another entrance behind the cemetery that I can't see from here. Or maybe it's a watchman making his nightly rounds. But something tells me it's not that simple. The headlights seem too isolated, as if they were floating without being attached to a vehicle. What if it's the tow truck? Curiosity wins out over fear. I take a deep breath, unbuckle my seatbelt, and get out of the car. I open the old gate and enter the cemetery. I can barely make out my path, gradually moving away from the faint streetlights. As I advance, the darkness seems to grow denser, engulfing everything around me. I try to pierce the darkness, looking for any clue to this untraceable car that didn't seem so far away. Then I hear a laugh that stops me dead in my tracks. It's not a happy laugh. It's a mocking, sinister laugh. The cemetery takes on an even more terrifying dimension. I have the oppressive feeling of being surrounded, trapped. Is someone playing a practical joke on me? My phone vibrates in my pocket. It's the tow truck. Panicking, I turn abruptly and run for the exit to find my car. But there's more laughter, coming closer, chasing me. My heart is racing. Adrenaline the only thing keeping me from collapsing. The light of the tow truck suddenly pierces the night. I rush towards it, taking one last look behind me. The shadows of the cemetery are silent, as if nothing had happened. The driver, a man in his 60s, gets out of his car and looks at me, surprised. "Are you all right, miss? You look like you've seen a ghost." I laugh nervously, avoiding his gaze. He wouldn't believe me anyway. As we drive into town, I take one last look at the cemetery in the rearview mirror. Maybe fatigue is playing tricks on me, yeah. But a certainty takes root in me. Never again will I take this route home. Not after the way I've felt. It was one of those nights when everything seemed strangely quiet. I decided to visit an old friend, Nina, who lives several kilometers from me. We talked, laughed, and had a few drinks. When I decided to go home, it was already late, close to midnight. The journey from her house to mine isn't very complicated. A few major avenues, then a series of small country roads. I love these roads. At night, they're quiet. Just the sound of my old car's engine and the smell of nature filtering through the ventilation. As I turn onto the country road, I catch a glimpse in my rearview mirror of a pair of headlights that appear out of nowhere. I think to myself that it's probably a local on his way home, just like me. But before I know it, that car is closing in on me, almost sticking to my bumper. What the hell is he doing? I mutter to myself, a little annoyed. The road is winding and opportunities to overtake are rare. Maybe he's just in a hurry. I accelerate a little to give him space, hoping he'll calm down. But to no avail, the car sticks behind me, its headlights blinding my rear-view mirror. The stress starts to build. I can feel the tension in my hands as they grip the steering wheel. At every bend, I hope to see the car take a different direction, but it stubbornly follows me. Suddenly, the driver of the car turns on his headlights and starts honking frantically. My heart is pounding. I try to stay calm, to tell myself that maybe there's a logical reason for his behavior. I quickly panic, and the first thing I think of is trying to lose him. I took the next bend to the left, then another to the right, weaving my way through the deserted back roads. For a few minutes, I thought I'd succeeded, but as I relax, I glance at my rearview mirror and see to my horror that the familiar headlights are back, and they're closing in fast. Why is he chasing me? What does he want? All these questions swirl around in my head. I accelerate, driving well over the speed limit, hoping to outrun my pursuer. I bitterly regret not having charged my phone before setting off. It's been dead for an hour. Suddenly a memory comes to me. There's an old abandoned barn a few miles down the road. If I can hide there, maybe I can lose this stranger. As I approach the barn, I turn off the headlights and quickly park behind it, out of sight of the road. I cut the engine, plunged into almost total darkness, lit only by the pale light of the moon. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every noise, every creak from outside makes my heart beat a little faster. Several minutes seem to pass, and just as I'm starting to think I might have managed to lose that car, I hear the distant rumble of an engine slowly approaching. I panic again and hold my breath. The car stops just in front of the barn. The headlights illuminate the old wooden planks, creating ghostly shadows across the gaps. The car door opens and closes. Footsteps crunch on the gravel. It's a slow, sure step. The person is approaching the barn, his silhouette vaguely outlined in the headlights. I hear the steady breathing of this stranger. Close, too close. Fear paralyzes me. I think about speeding off, but I'm afraid it will be no use, that the man will eventually catch up with me. After what seems like an eternity, I hear murmurs, as if he's talking to himself. Then he turns around and goes back to his car. The roar of the engine picks up again, fades into the distance, and finally disappears into the night. My tense muscles finally begin to relax. I take a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I set off again cautiously, heading for the nearest village in search of somewhere safe. After this mishap, I need a moment to collect my wits before heading home. I spot a small bar with soft lights and decide to stop in. I take a seat at the counter and order a coffee, trying to shake off the anxiety I'm still feeling. The owner, a kindly-looking woman in her 50s, serves me my coffee and, seeing my troubled expression, asks me if everything is all right. I tell her about my misadventure on the road. She nods gravely and tells me that many motorists have recently reported being followed on this road. Some claim it's the spirit of a man who died in a car accident years ago, out to frighten lone drivers. Others say it's simply a local madman. She concludes by advising me to be careful in future. I thanked her for listening, feeling a little less alone with my story. After finishing my coffee and thanking the landlady, I left the bar, determined never to take this road again.